Okay, we are at the end of citizen comments, and I'm not sure if we want to let them rebuttal a couple things.
The
And then,
applicant now gets to
can I
stand
give
up.
them a pointer of explaining how they came about? Or can we ask them to do that? Just
Sure.
Or
Do
can I
whatever you
just,
like.
so the quick answer is, this is for you guys. I have said this story 5 times. They reached out the day that they realized that they won the contract. When there's a commercial property, the village is not involved. So it is when you go and you sell your house, the village doesn't care who you sell your house to. Just like commercial property. When somebody goes and buys a commercial property, we are not aware of the sale until it closes. It is not our business, not our problem. As long as they do their research and they're allowed or not allowed, thank you for shaking your head. I've explained this 5 times, I'm not sure why people aren't getting it, but the village had nothing to do with them buying this property. Now, any conversations or anything, if they called Eric and said, is this permitted, that I don't know. Again, I've had 5 people ask for public records, this and that, so they're working on getting all that. But you guys have your own real estate person. I received a phone call about noon to 2, I can't tell you exactly when, so this will answer some of your questions, and said somebody from Phantom wants to come in and speak to council. And I said, great, I didn't know a name, I didn't know anything. So I put special guest, I'm to blame. It wasn't some big conspiracy theory that everybody wants to imagine. We literally found out that day, Eric physically called me and said, can they come in? Now, I do believe the other big point to this is, you guys then came in a second time. I cannot remember or find that date, but that one was on August 10th. And everybody's saying you guys haven't been in, but you were there. I remember you were there, because I talked to you outside of there, and a lot of people were there. So this is not there. August 14th of 2024 is not the first time. And again, it could be irrelevant, that's fine, but I'm just merely, I know that there's been fear mongering and everybody, going crazy. They have introduced themselves from day one. They came in and introduced themselves the second time when they realized that there was such a big, cannot find the date, so if you guys find that, let us know. And that's all I wanted to, is we're not involved in commercial real estate. We are not involved in the sale. And they introduced themselves the minute they found out that they were the winning contract. And I don't know how many contracts there were, but there were a lot trying to buy GFS. And that's all I wanted to say about that, because several people commented on that, and it's just not accurate. And now you guys want to respond to anything else?
Yeah.
Or if you can find your date, you can let them know. Because I believe you were here the first time. Yes. Yes, August 10th was the first one. You have the date. Yes.
So just a couple of things. I'm not going to belabor some of the points. But so the first thing is that I think there's a misconception about the types of regulation that exist. So you have, for example, the fire code, the building code. That's handled by the state fire marshal in conjunction with the industrial commission.
Division of Industrial Compliance.
Division of Industrial Compliance. They're the ones that are going to review the building code and determine everything relating to compliance with that. And there are lots of, regulations that are building code related, like the size, the maximum, the allowable size of square footage for sales area. So, for example, the Ohio Rec Code allows for 7,500 square footage of sales area, but there's a whole host of other regulations that deal with that. And so when there's requests for conditions, it puts a difficult situation because there are experts that are involved in that on a daily basis who already are regulating those areas. And we're going to comply with all those requirements and in fact exceed the requirements with regard to the building code and the fire prevention code. And we will have to obtain a license, and there will be an inspection done before we can open our doors. Second is that, sorry, I have a bit here. In terms of communication with the village, I think we've been upfront in terms of notifying you when we first purchased the property, and then also I've sent multiple letters to Jesse, and all of those are public record, and those are actually already been submitted as exhibits to you and to the planning commission. So there wasn't anything that we've withheld. Everything has been provided to the planning commission, and it's still our position that this is a permitted use, but we're going through the conditional use process. But all that's laid out in the correspondence that's made to the village. So nothing has been hidden. What we've done is relied on the law. And the fact of the matter is that Ohio General Assembly has determined that we are a lawful use, subject to regulation by the fire marshal, and we're complying with Ohio law and the village. We relied on the village planning code to the extent that it provides for these types of uses within the neighborhood commercial district. With regard to the Florida store that was raised at the last meeting, and I just thought I would have you explain again, that was an anomaly because that was in Melbourne, Florida, where there was a grandfather store, which there was no fire suppression system, that you could explain.
Yeah, that store was built, it was like 22 years prior to any of the laws coming into place in the state of Florida. So they grandfathered in, it was a prior restaurant. And so then it was conformed to be a consumer fireworks store, which was very successful for up to the point of more than 22 years when a car ran into it from an individual who had a medical emergency. They determined he had a heart attack and drove into the store. All emergency plans worked well, but that store was grandfathered from having the fire water suppression system. It had all the other smoke detection alarms and all that, but it just didn't. And there was no explosion. It was just a big burn out, and it stayed in the footprint and did not damage any adjoining properties, which that's surrounded 2/3 by a hotel. There's a gas station, there's some other businesses there. None of those were affected by the incident.
How many people were injured or died during that accident?
Absolutely nobody. There were 4 of our employees in the store at the time. 2 customers had just left the building. They have an emergency evacuation plan in place. It went flawlessly, and they were all out of the building, and there was nobody harmed. The driver, who
Except the guy.
went into the building, perished.
So in any event, the fact of the matter is that in the state of Ohio, there's been lots of people involved with fireworks safety who have gotten involved in preparing the regulations that were set forth, the building code, the fire prevention code. All of those are designed to protect the public safety. All of those are regulated by the state fire marshal. We comply with those, and in fact, we go above and beyond. So there is no concern about safety because it is a matter that's already regulated and handled by the state fire marshal. And then I think there was a discussion about the impact on property values. And let me just say that property values are always a very difficult thing. Generally, you have an appraiser who looks at all kinds of factors. It's very difficult to make broad statements, particularly when we don't even have the study presented, we don't know who prepared the study, what conditions they looked at. It's not considered evidence that would be substantial evidence in an administrative proceeding. And ultimately, what we have here is we're located on a main commercial thoroughfare, Cleveland Avenue. There's really no evidence that our particular store is going to have any negative impact as opposed to any other commercial store that we located there. And I would frankly submit that having an abandoned GFS store with nothing going in there would have a more negative impact on the entire area than having a commercial district that actually has stores being occupied.
Why would it be abandoned? Can I ask that?
It currently is. I thought he said it was currently
But
abandoned.
here's the thing, that why would it be abandoned unless you guys abandoned it?
Well, we bought it to put it to use. So that's the reason why we want to be able to put it to use.
So are you saying that if you wouldn't put it to use, you would abandon it?
I'm not saying that we would abandon it. We want to put it to productive use. But
So,
ultimately,
okay.
we want to put it to productive use. So the fact of the matter is that if we hadn't bought it, it would have been left abandoned. That's the difference.
Well, somebody else would have.
Okay. I'm gonna put this to use tonight. I'm just kidding. Okay.
I have more questions.
Is this back and forth between, okay, so
Absolutely.
I just wanna make sure everybody knows what we're doing. So is this
Yeah,
council?
Council can ask questions of the applicant
Okay.
or staff. This record, it needs to be clean. There's not back and forth with the audience. There's not chirping and yelling. We need people to be able to hear what is being said. We need respect for everybody in the room.
Guys, can I just talk? Okay, thanks. Can you please comment on the contradicting statements made by Dan Perk on September 28th, 2023? Previous claims that you guys would expect hundreds of people, maybe thousands per day, and that it is a, quote, hyper-seasonal business. That directly contradicts what you told us today.
Okay, well, I don't know what he said in September, but he's here today, and we've looked at the actual data of the Grove City store, in terms of what the actual transactions have been.
Correct, so either those statements were inaccurate, they were made by the same person, or the statements today were inaccurate.
No, that's not the case. We have more reliable data that he is relying on for the business of the store. Go ahead. Can
There's
you
more than
explain?
12 hours, they're open more than 12 hours a day. So if they do 65 transactions times the 14 hours that they're open, that's 1,000 a day.
I guess I would
Thousands.
ask, what is the contradictory statement?
So it would expect hundreds of people, maybe thousands per day.
Okay.
And
So, yes, and as we looked at the transaction counts from our Grove City store, I'm not going to get into specific numbers on the record, and we'll discuss this privately. But in talking about transactions per hour, on one or two of those days, it was over 1,000. I will say that it was less than 2,000 by a significant number.
Okay, so you stated last time we spoke, again, on that date, I listened to it, September 28th, that it is a hyper-seasonal business. Comparison to a grocery store, you know, I don't know if that's accurate, if you would describe yourself as a little bit different and hyper-seasonal, which is where our concerns about traffic are. Can you comment on that?
But yeah, and maybe I can explain that and I'll let you comment. I think what we're talking about is that the vast majority of the time is going to be substantially less. So it's going to be a relatively quiet store. So when we talk about the busy time, we're comparing that to the normal time. So in the week before the 4th of July, it's busier than normal. But the sense that it is way beyond this capacity of the store to handle it is not an accurate statement. So there's a parking lot with 65 cars. The vast majority of the time it will not be filled. The 1 week beforehand, based upon our examination of the actual data, when you're looking at an average of transactions per hour, and you factor in that the average transaction is roughly 25 minutes, you know, from the time we arrive there and the time we depart, we are very confident that the store can handle that capacity. We wouldn't be buying it if we didn't think that it could. And Dan, I don't know if you want to comment on that at all.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to say anything more to that point unless you still have a question we haven't answered.
I think my last question is last time we spoke again, you said, we don't want to be in a place where we are not wanted, which now turns into a discussion of we have a right to be here. Can you comment on that?
I don't ever recall saying we have a right to be here, but we do have maintained the position that we are permitted use in the city. I'm not sure what you're mentioning, I'm sorry.
So if you said we don't want to be in a place where we are not wanted, and now we're talking about we deserve to be here even though there's people that have concerns.
Well, I mean, I think that the concerns that are being raised are not actually substantiated. The concerns that I've heard is concern about safety, I think we've addressed those, and concerns about traffic, and I think we've addressed that as well. We've done a complete traffic study. We've looked at what our volumes actually were in Grove City.
Okay.
We've looked at the number of spaces that we're going to be providing, and we believe that we can be a good partner with the village. So when we talk about do we want to be wanted, yes, everybody wants to be liked and everything, but ultimately we want to be a good partner, and we're going to make this store work for the benefit of the village and for the benefit of fan fireworks. And our experience with 90 stores over 45 years in business is that we are a good partner with villages and townships and cities where we're located. And we do not experience problems that are being raised. And so when we say that we want to be a good partner with the village, that is very much a true statement.
Okay. And then where are your employees going to park during the busy season?
Jack, do you want to explain that?
We'll locate
Wait
something.
for the mic.
We will locate something off premises. We haven't done that yet. Obviously, we haven't got approval to open yet, but we've done that at other locations.
And what's typical?
I think that that's one of the conditions, yeah.
Yeah, but what's typical in your experience?
It depends on where we're located, but obviously we need to find some neighboring parcel where we can shuttle employees back and forth.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I'll just sit down.
Yeah, she went, you got a question?
Okay, I do. Hi, I'm Kathy. My husband Mike and a woman live on Elmhurst, and I'm exactly 425 steps from your front door, so I'm interested in this. I finally understand the process. I just came on council in January of this year, and clearly things had happened before. So I finally understand how we got where we are now. What I'm curious is, how did you come to choose this building to buy in Central Ohio?
So obviously, we're a company, a large company with 90 stores. I head the real estate department. We look for areas in Ohio. We looked in the Cleveland suburbs, Columbus suburbs, and Cincinnati. In the last 4 stores we opened were Grove City on the south side of Columbus, one on the east side of Cleveland, one on the north side of Cincinnati, and we looked on the north side of Columbus. So this came about strictly from a real estate search. We found out this was available.
And then also one on the north side of Dayton.
On the northwest side, which is another GFS store.
So it sounds like pure location. This just happened to be the right location. There were other considerations that you looked at?
Obviously, we look at demographics first of all, find out where the population is going to be. And then we find locations. We do some due diligence. We look at the zoning code on our own before we contact anybody. And then quite often, like I did in this case, I stop in and introduce myself to a city council or a village council.
Okay, thank you. How many other locations approximately are in this kind of setting? And I'm sorry, I think you've probably answered that before, but where you're this close to the neighborhood, 1,000 feet from my front door? How many of your other stores?
Off the top of my head, I don't know how many are going to be exact in it, but we are in neighborhoods that border on residential neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How those processes go? How
So-
the neighbors respond?
So in general, we're located in commercially zoned districts, and so it's also the case that a commercially zoned district may be adjacent to another residential district. But we're on Cleveland Avenue, which is a commercially zoned district. So in terms of our use compared to any other retail use, is not going to be any worse than any other retail use. And then, can you?
Kathy, Dan just mentioned, we have one of our locations in Florida is in West Palm, which borders on a residential neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How'd that process go?
It went fine, didn't have any issues down there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question, and I think it might help provide some context regarding, it was said that the building was purchased, I think, in September. Was it in or August, correct? August of 2023, perhaps?
They were
That's
in
the
February.
closing, that's the contract considered into the closing wasn't until I think February of this year.
I guess I'm trying to make the kind of, and maybe it's just from an understanding point of view, and it's not a gotcha kind of a question or anything like that. It's like, you can apply for, I didn't realize you could apply for a permit for zoning on a building that you didn't technically own yet. And when you see the transfer on the auditor side of February 2024, my brain goes, well, I can't get a
Yeah,
fence
so
for Stacy's house, how do we?
If you look at our conditional use application that we submitted in September of 2023, we indicated there that we had entered into a purchase agreement with GFS stores and that we were applying for what the proposed use was going to be. And that is very standard practice in the area of zoning. Oftentimes there's like a due diligence period prior to closing. Now, we wanted that to be ruled on. There was a moratorium in place. It's our position that once that moratorium expired in January, we should have been granted a conditional use permit, a permitted use zoning certificate at that time. And I submitted to you all a letter that indicated that. Based upon my review of Ohio law and also the analysis of the current zoning and the new zoning, we proceeded to go ahead and close on the transaction in February. But it wasn't based on anything other than what the law itself provides.
Perfect, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, do we want to, at this point, go over the conditional uses?
Sure, so I think Harry's trying to pull over there on the conditions that we discussed, okay, yes. No. And my reading, Eric, we discussed, what the applicant proposed as far as days and times on the additional security. I take their point, I also take your point, I also take the concerns of the residents pretty seriously about, we don't know what we don't know. And so in an effort to maybe thread that needle, I would submit to you all that perhaps as written, I think we started 15 days prior to the 4th, we could write that to say for the first year, and then traffic mitigation efforts are discussed as part of that I believe the 7th condition, or the 6th condition.
Can you change that? I can't read that.
I'm sorry, it's something said.
I put different
Just at least
dates.
slow it up. And so my thought there was, for the first year, do the 15 days as proposed. If it turns out to be a nothing burger, we can adjust that, right thereafter, it's only 1 year, it's only 15 days. So that would be my suggestion to you.
I did mine a little different than, and I don't disagree with that, so I don't have.
It's
I
up to all of
actually
you.
put June 28th through July 5th, because July 5th falls on a Saturday.
Sure.
So, and whether or not they want to do that or not, but I did, because I don't disagree. I mean, I think you're gonna have somebody standing out there for 12 hours. I mean, like he said, there's only gonna be a few hours in that, but we don't know what those hours are gonna be yet, so.
Switch modes. Eric, go back. There's a sun, and then you click on it. There you go.
But June 28th falls on a Saturday as well.
I mean, that would probably, it's totally up to you guys. I was just, I think for the first year, probably best, at least in the villagers' view, to err slightly on the side of caution to see how it goes. Sure.
I mean,
So are we discussing this now?
Yeah, just feel free to discuss the whole situation amongst yourselves.
I would like to keep it as is.
So one thing, I'm worried that we're limiting it to one holiday. And there could be potential of others, especially knowing the demographic of the mixture of our community. What if there are other holidays that we see a similar traffic? We have no conditions in here on monitoring that.
Yeah, Eid is 2 weeks prior to that, or it did fall 2 weeks prior to that this year. That was a very busy time for our
So I'm wondering if we
community.
can put some language in it that would say, we'd like to have the right to add additional holidays in there.
Would we do that at the 1 year, or because we wouldn't know until after I mean, my question is, I'm
Yeah, I know,
asking.
yeah.
So would we just do that in the 1 year review, like for New Year's Eve? There's-
We tend to think that they may very well be right, we don't know, and so when we get there, there's gonna be I can easily see an ask being put forward, saying, hey, we really only need, we've all seen it, we really only need a special duty officer for maybe 5 days, versus what we're saying 14, 15 here.
Right.
But there could be a response from the village saying, but we also saw this over these 3 days for this holiday, and they're like, oh yeah, we were really busy those 3 days.
Perhaps based upon transactional data that Phantom might provide as a result, we could perhaps at least at some point create some, guardrails for when we need to do that.
And the first year is going to be a trial run for both of us, for everyone.
So, can I make a suggestion? Yeah, turn it back up.
Would you like to make
It's
this
trial
back,
run,
like the
that's
Saturday
for the
before?
learning experience for everyone.
Yeah, I agree with you, yep.
I just don't know if you really need to.
Oh, it's Tuesday, I was thinking Tuesday, Saturday.
Saturday, why
Thank you. So a couple of things, and I kind of made this request, but I just wanted to sort of explain. We are going to have somebody there, a special duty officer already. So what we would ask is that there would be one additional special duty officer there. And they would be basically looking at traffic as a whole, because having had 2 people is going to be way too much. So they're not going to be stationed in like one location. They're going to be going where they need to go to deal with the situation, whatever that might be. And there's already going to be another one there anyway, so you'd have some degree of backup. So That would be sort of my request. And then I think, to your point, Jesse, what I would request would be that there would be a meeting that would look at actual data, and that could include what you're saying, other times of the year, if there are days that would seem to be busier than normal. And we could sit down and have that meeting and come out what days we think are the days that need to have an officer there, and what hours of the day. So, did you have any more, Dan, on that? Jack? No. Okay.
Do your store managers have the authority to make decisions on the fly if, God forbid, Cleveland's backed up for half a mile? Would they be able to, based on what they're seeing right then and there, to contact special duty or contact Columbus or Minerva Park and say, we need another officer?
So just to understand, store managers have a level, we have regional managers, we have multiple people that run retail operations, so we're a large enough organization that we can run down things quickly in our
Can we have your number?
Yeah. Okay, so here's my concern. There was a Saturday right before Christmas, this was in Delaware County, where literally all of Columbus went to the zoo, or Zoo Lake. And I was trapped, Jason was trapped in the zoo parking lot for 3 hours with my 2 children and my mother-in-law in the car, okay? So, and I called, because I'm from that area, I called the Delaware County Sheriff's Office and I said, hey guys, you need an officer out here, like this is crazy. And their response was, sorry, we're understaffed and we don't have an officer available to serve special duty in order to direct traffic. What happens if that is a scenario here, where one officer isn't sufficient, where all of a sudden you have a situation and I'm trapped and I can't go to work and I have a life-saving thing and I'm on call, or we have a medical emergency and we're trapped in a dead-end street, or people are turning around in our street all because they're trying to get out of it? What happens?
So what if one option is just me speaking on top of him? One, your concern, I understand that Columbus Zoo, this is not going to be that situation. And we know that for confidence because we have Grove City as our example of what is suburban. And that store in particular is going to be a higher volume than we anticipated with this store. If I could just respond. So one option would be that if we did one additional officer, then if something were to happen, you could request an additional officer.
Like an on-call officer?
I don't know if it would be an on-call, because you'd have to make arrangements to hire them, but.
Yeah, the simple answer to the question is if we needed to have as an on-duty traffic officer and the staff can figure, it's going to be unlikely. We're not going to get it that day. It's possible that we can get it the next day. I think that underscores the importance of the kind of planning that we're doing. Yes, I think mirroring traffic officers to the state-required in-store security requirement that was instituted more than 30 years ago, which is an antiquated requirement in itself, is overkill. For example, we keep using the number of 100 transactions an hour. On June 25th, our Grove City showroom barely did more than that the entire day. We're talking about starting traffic police 10 days before that.
But are you hoping
and now
for
we're talking
business?
about doing it 1 or 2. So I think, based on the traffic data that we provided, based on some of the transaction data that we provided, we can fashion this in a pretty intelligent way. And I think we can add for a buffer zone, which is, clearly what the wish of some of the members of the council are doing.
Well, hold on, we'll back up a little bit. Okay, the traffic data that you provided, right? So let's talk about this. I'm a logical person, I am also a doctor, I want to talk about this in a fact basis. So the traffic data that you provided, you did a study on a Saturday in April? Okay, so where is the data that talks about your peak season? And how does that reflect upon your planning for that traffic officer? Because I didn't see that.
So 2 things. One is the traffic study that was determined based upon the
Correct.
standard methodology.
I understand that.
And you don't pick the day before Christmas.
Correct.
As your.
So we don't have that data is what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that. We have looked at our Grove City store.
Okay.
And we looked at the number of sales transactions. And
During July 4th?
during July 4th.
Where is that data?
Well, we looked at the number of sales transactions, so we're not
Right.
at liberty to provide you with
Okay.
the data, because it's not a traffic count. But what we can tell you is that based upon the sales transactions that we looked at
Okay,
in Grove City, there was, in general, less than 65 sales transactions per hour in the time frame before July 1st.
okay,
The only time where it was around the range of 100 transactions per hour was in that July 1st to July 4th timeframe. So what we're saying is that with 65 parking spaces, and the fact that an average person would be at the store 20 to 25 minutes, or 25 to 35 minutes if you even want to use that, you would have more than enough parking in the store to facilitate that customer. So we talk about, if it's 100 hours, 100 transactions, the parking in terms of vehicles are going to be more in the line of 50. You follow me?
No, I
So that's per hour. We're very comfortable that this store has the parking and the wherewithal to handle that level of traffic. And we're going to have officers there already. We're saying we're willing to agree to have one additional officer to help manage traffic. We think ideally between June 28th and July 4th.
correct.
But if you want the additional time, I think that that's overkill, but we're willing to do that. We just would like to have the ability to come back afterwards and do an analysis whereby you can have some degree of saying, yeah, we agree it should only be based upon a reduction, based upon the actual data. And we'd be willing to look at other dates if this were to be a problem.
Right.
What I was saying to you is an additional concern. If there was something were to happen this first year, and you made a request for an additional officer, we would need some time to get that person, but that would be something that we could do. But we don't think that's very likely,
So, and then.
or the need for that, I mean.
Okay, so I need to put this on the record as like, you study in Grove City, I work in Grove City. Very different demographic for the holidays that are celebrated in Grove City versus the holidays that are celebrated around the same time here. So like I said, Eid, 2 weeks before, fell on the Sunday, 2 weeks before July 4th, which definitely impacted my ability to go to a restaurant because it was packed, get out of my street at that point. So you saying, well, we looked at Grove City, to me, and it's not a problem. You guys are not listening to what we're telling you about our demographic in a way, because we live it, and you guys, that traffic study didn't consider that, and that is my concern. So I think that we need to step to the plate in this negotiation, whatever you want to call it. You guys have to listen to us because we're trying to help you.
No, I understand, and I hope you listened to me as well.
Oh, I sure did. I do my homework.
That we've been doing this for 45 years. We have 90 stores. You're generally not that busy, with the exception of the few days before the July 4th.
Okay, but what I'm saying is.
So that's why we're focused on those days.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is that all the other businesses around here are, and they're all dumping traffic onto one street. There's no service road around here, so they're dumping that traffic there, and so any additional traffic is going to cause a problem. So it's not just your traffic, it's the addition of your traffic during that time, so you need to consider that.
Well, I think what we're saying is that in the traffic analysis, maybe you can explain this. When you do an analysis, do you look at what other stores are doing in terms of deciding how to do traffic, or whether there's a change in the level of service?
I mean, we worked with the village and the city of Columbus to determine what the study area was for the study. So we looked at Teakwood and Jordan. And so whatever businesses or anything that access those roads, that's what we looked at as part of the study. It's usually pretty standard that you would only look at one intersection adjacent to where traffic is coming out of for your proposed business.
But the point is that when you do a traffic study, you have to do it based upon actual counts, doing the actual methodology that's followed. We follow the city of Columbus's requirements, and the village had the opportunity to comment on that.
Right.
So there's no other way to do it in the way that you're proposing. And what we're saying is that our traffic is going to be minimal, other than the 1 week beforehand, and even that time frame, we're going to be able to accommodate that in our stores.
Okay, so.
So I think
Go ahead.
maybe if I'm hearing the applicant correct, for this first year, you could make a condition that says In addition to the state law mandated security guard, Phantom will hire a second security guard for the purposes of traffic management. And for this first year, we can use the date, we can use the dates we wanted, which are basically, back to June 21st, which, yeah, we know the applicant says is overkill. We would say from, pulling up the calendar, I'm sorry, from,
So we really want somebody sitting out there on the 24th from 12, 14 hours a day for absolutely no reason on a Tuesday.
Sure.
from all that I've heard, and I'm not elected, so this is up to you, I'm just saying, a 1 year period to start at what applicant and many might think is the extreme end is not the end of the world. Granted, we hold in that condition, in the final condition where we have the annual meeting, that we look at actual data and we can back off that if we, in consultation with our police department. That's something like that. That's just my 2 cents.
I agree with that.
Eric, are you correcting it? Okay, take the S off, officers. Yeah, thank you.
To hire special, no, I thought we did too.
Yeah, I just,
They
I think
also
July-
have
They have one.
They have
And what we're saying is the second one for traffic for the first.
I'm not trying to add more days, but I would rather see July 5th than June 24th.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Eric, what I.
July 5th is a Saturday.
Yeah, on the real.
So I just don't,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to give you guys more days, I think it's I do not agree, I'm just,
No, for the
I think on
first-
a Tuesday, on the 20, whatever that is, we'll see. But I would like to see July 5th, only because that falls on a Saturday this year. And I just feel like people that are like, oh, my friends had it, let's go get fireworks.
So Eric's drafted that to June 21st to July 5th for the first year, Eric, and then we'll revisit that at the annual meeting with the traffic data.
Yeah.
So if I could just being a lawyer, I'm just, I have a mic, sorry.
It's right there.
So that the Phantom Fires would have a meeting with the village
That they initiate.
following July 4th to discuss
The following
the
year.
modification of the days and hours when a second security guard would be required based upon examination of actual data.
Traffic. I'm not talking about security guards, I'm talking about traffic.
Traffic.
Yeah, that's why I said second traffic.
Okay, so I have it, initiates an annual meeting with the village administration after July 4th to discuss observed issues / problems, including, potential modifications to traffic mitigation efforts, i.e. amount and duration of time for such officer.
And we just wanted, based upon actual data.
You can't, but here's my issue with the data. It has to be data specific to that time frame. It can't just be like data from April.
Oh, correct. Oh, absolutely. This will be data based on the hours, the days that we have imposed.
Right. And transaction data or traffic data?
Big combination.
Both? Put that in there.
It's not going to be, we're not going to do another traffic study, it won't be traffic counts. It'll be actual
observational.
sales data.
Right. It'll be observational. If we see issues, we're obviously going to consult with you concerning those issues, both from a police observation, staff observation, or otherwise, as to how things are functioning around the store. And that's what we're going to discuss.
Right. We just want it to be based upon actual data, not, it doesn't have to be traffic counts, but actual data of when we saw our sales volume were very
What was the sales volume the weekend after 4th of July?
Just so you understand, I know you think July 5th is going to be crazy. We've been in business for 45 years. For whatever reason, it's just like people don't go out and shop on December 26th. You don't get a lot of people on July 5th. Doesn't matter when.
Even if it's on a weekend.
It doesn't matter what day of the year.
Okay.
We wish it was.
Can you tell me what size the showroom space is at Grove City compared to this one?
So The state imposes a maximum show space, so what is the show space?
I'm sorry. Gross. Yes, retail is 75%.
So the retail space is basically the same, it's 7,500 square feet.
And that's the maximum.
7,500, that's the maximum allowed by law.
Okay. And then how much storage do you keep in there?
It would be 5,400 square feet for the storage area.
The retail for this building would be 7,300 square feet, slightly under that 7,500 max. For the storage in the stock room, now keep in mind this also includes break room, restrooms, and so forth. That's at 5,400 square feet.
Do you keep the shelves stocked all year round? The product is always on the shelf, or is it,
Deliveries.
Yes,
Yeah.
so shelves are full year round?
yes.
Okay, wait, I have a question. When are deliveries? Will it be during your operating times, or will it be before and after? And, okay.
The answer would be both.
Oh, great. Well, let's limit that.
I'm sorry, I'm not telling you in the same day, but yes, you know, one day maybe during operating hours, another day we may take it early, another day maybe.
Define early.
Before we open.
Okay, so 6 a.m.?
I'm not here, I can't tell you what the schedule is right now.
Okay, can we limit
That seems
deliveries
awfully early.
to
And if
past 7
if you wanna
a.m.?
do it with the rest of them too, because we get deliveries at the other places super early.
Yeah, it's just like we limit our trash to
Not-
7 a.m.
Not for commercial. They come at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, the deliveries are not gonna have noise associated with them.
It's not like they're big,
Fine.
huge semis.
It's not gonna be really any different than what the grocery store would have deliveries. It will be less frequent actually. than the store.
Yeah, commercials, they empty those trash cans at like, unfortunately, the craziest hours. It's, yeah. And then we can hear the other ones.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Love that.
I mean, I think we had a discussion on council, but I'd still like to see in number 3, that's done within so many days after the 4th of July.
Oh, sure.
You know, if it's
45.
45
When do you guys
days or
usually-
something.
When do you guys usually do your month end? Like for us, when we reconcile July, it's gonna be August, some point in time in August. So when would you have your data for us to be, I don't wanna do it too soon, because if they don't have their data, does it typically take you like about 30
Just so
days?
you understand, we have a fiscal year end of September 30th,
Okay.
so we try to reconcile.
Just like your month end.
No,
For July.
she's asking, when would you know the sales transaction for the full?
Yeah.
Are we talking about the meeting? between-
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Give us in July to do inventory, that kind of thing, anytime in August.
Okay.
So within
So
60
maybe
days.
say by
No
like,
later than August 30th.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Hold on, I got another one. So who's gonna pay for the signs we have to put up? Even the ones on our streets, and I would like to add one on Wildwood, as well, for local traffic only. Would you commit to putting up, to paying for as many signs as the village deems necessary?
So I just understand, I think he misunderstood your question. Yeah, he was talking about the signs on the property.
Okay, so if the village feels that they need to put up additional signs to mitigate that traffic or people turning the wrong way or people trying to cut through because of a backup, would you commit to paying for those signs?
I don't know. What's that? I mean, I'd have to discuss that with my client or two. I don't know what sign you're speaking of. You're talking about.
it would go
Just like
through,
a sign that says no through traffic or
I
no
think
parking
it
for,
actually says no alley.
on that street, but not on Wildwood.
and
I
it
think we'd
says,
be happy to be a part of any discussion like that, you know, when you talk about a blank check. But I think we'd be
I
happy
mean,
to
how
have a
much does a
discussion
sign
about
cost?
that.
Banana, $10?
I think, you're not wrong to ask, I don't think we have legal authority to force them to do it, but if they're willing to be a
Right.
partner, that could certainly be something we talk about in this annual meeting, about this is what this is a problem we noticed, is there, if you're willing to be a partner? can we
And that's
work on
something
it?
council just needs to pass what they want to do, because she had a great idea about like permits and different things like that. If that's something we decide to do, there's gonna be some additional cost to all of that. And then, of course, the signs will have to be changed. Right now, we do have no parking on this side of the street. So whether or not we add some, at least through the first couple houses, you can stop before my house, it doesn't bother me. But if we did some on that side of the street or something like that, if people were turning around, no parking on this side of the street.
We can definitely move forward working with them as a core partner, and the council's the one that sets down what signs they want and need to put in the right of way. So it's something we can assess and operate.
Yeah, well, I think we'd be open to that.
Do we want to change number 3 instead of initiates that by the 30th to has the meeting by the 30th?
I think initiates means that they come to us, so we don't have to worry about.
Right, that sounds like they just have to say, hey, we're going to schedule it by the 30th.
Ask the lawyers.
Could I ask that the council speak louder?
Oh, God, give me a microphone.
There. I changed it to that Phantom Fireworks initiates and holds an annual meeting with the village administration no later than August 30th. So it has to be, they set it up and it gets done for the 30th.
Are you guys ready? I kind of want to keep it till 10 p.m.
Hold the rest of your council members and see if.
We can change it later, but I think 10 p.m. in accordance with our noise ordinances would be more appropriate for us to start off with.
I think they know their business practice, and I think you're gonna end up with a lot of more traffic in some of those hours.
At least I know when it stops.
Don't disagree with that.
And I think that, if I'm not correct, this noise or the village's ordinance did provide for 11 p.m. on weekends, is that it?
Can we just change it?
So we didn't change it yet.
Well, we
We
have,
just discussed it.
yeah, our pool is open till 11 p.m.
Well, we're
We allow for those types of things, so in keeping with that, it is 11 on the weekends. That's your guys' call, not.
I mean, right now,
10.
I would rather leave it like this and discuss it at the first meeting.
You want 11 now and discuss it?
It's just the Friday and Saturday nights.
No, but
It's just Friday, Saturday nights and July 3rd.
Yeah.
But we personally recommended July 1st to the 4th, but I understand.
But that's also something, if it's not as
That's
crazy as
really
people are thinking it's going to be, that's something that maybe,
I think my concern is that comment that was made that let's hope that they're sober. Can you hear me? That when you made that comment, it made me feel that it would be safer if that person was, you can't control that, you know, people drink when they drink, but maybe it's a little bit more likely that they have less time to drink till 10 p.m.
Okay, we don't really have any experience with people coming to our stores that aren't
Then why make that comment?
complying with the law in terms of what drunk driving laws are. So if somebody made that comment, I don't think that was based upon any kind of observation. Other than just the normal expectation that people are going to comply with the law.
okay, does anybody else want to change that to 10? Is everybody okay leaving it till 11? Only on the weekends, like you said, Friday, Saturday?
What's River Park Business Code?
Well, it's same thing, the pool's open till 11.
I mean, I would stay employed throughout, or, you know.
That's,
people throughout.
if you have a party at the pool, it has to be over by 11. That's the only thing we really have, unless
No,
somebody could.
it's 10 p.m. on weeknights and from 8 on Friday and Saturday nights.
It's just the noise thing is what I'm going with. I don't know if we have anything else.
So the businesses like the restaurant, do they have closing hours?
I don't know what time they close, to be honest. I'm assuming they do, but I don't know what time they close. Yeah, I mean.
Right, I'm asking if you have requirements for the businesses.
Yeah, that's a fair question. I guess I would say that we do not have, to my knowledge, looking through the code, a cap on when businesses must close. We do not. That's right. So that's the sort of.
So this is a great condition.
I just say that we're an inside business, so people are not, but we're not selling outside, so like the pool is gonna be open outside.
Right.
This is gonna be this is not going to be a noise issue.
There's no patio sales outside the store.
Cars are silent, so.
Can I ask a question?
Is there any other comments regarding any of the other conditions besides what we discussed?
I guess can I make a comment? Are you guys open to not putting your like mascot thing on there? Like just doing what Grove City did? I don't think you guys have a phantom on the signage.
Alright, just so you know, our sign code allows for
I
any
understand
corporate
that.
logo up to 20% of the overall sign
I understand,
size.
it's just that the guy.
Traditionally, what we have is just the words phantom fireworks,
Yeah.
and there's a circle with the phantom.
Yeah, I saw that.
So that is the extent of the signage on the building.
Would you,
Traditionally.
so this is more of a suggestion, but I don't, the area here, I don't know if it's PC around here.
We obviously will submit the
Yeah.
building signage for approval.
Okay. We want that guy around here.
All right, are there more? This is only the 7 of them, right? Are there?
Oh, there's an
Keep
eighth,
going.
the eighth condition is that, and it's kind of, it's belt and suspenders, but it'll comply with the applicable property maintenance code, of course they have to.
I think one other thing that, an additional one that possibly is submitting, I forget, I emailed it to you, what I said, submitting safety compliance records.
Sure, it's maybe a question, this is kind of beyond my expertise, the safety expert might know. Are there trainings or certificates that your employees have to have either issued by the state or your company?
Yeah, all the employees they'll go through an orientation, we go through the emergency evacuation plan. We have manuals in each store and they have training record logs in there. So we have to conduct hazardous material training, conduct OSHA GHS hazard communication training, as well as emergency response training. We also train all of our managers, assistant managers in the use of life-saving CPR and so forth. So we have annual meetings every year when we bring all the regional managers, the key holders, and all the management team in for training. But we also do outreach training. I get out to the showrooms and do hands-on training for certain circumstances. We have online training also. So we cover quite a bit.
I think your question is, what do you have in terms of like a document that shows you're compliant with the safety regulations? And so we have a license that the state fire marshal provides, so we can certainly provide you a copy of that. And that's reviewed annually.
One other thing, we give a safety flyer to every transaction. So every person that leaves the store has a safety flyer of the do's and don'ts. So above and beyond the employees, every transaction is it.
Yeah. But I think what you're looking for is essentially would be the license. And then when the state fire marshal reviews it, they're making sure you're doing all these other things that have been described here. So I think it's going to be relying on the state fire marshal process as the way to do that, rather than to try to be your own state fire marshal.
Does that include testing of the emergency systems and stuff like that?
Maybe Patrick, could you explain that?
So basically, before the store even opens, there's several testings that are going on with at the state fire marshal and the local fire department and the building department. But after the store opens up, they do annual tests to make sure that all the safety equipment works properly, there's no issues associated with it. That's not only just the sprinkler system, but that's also the smoke exhaust system, the doors. It's an annual thing that they check and make sure. If any of those components fail, it has to be fixed immediately. And the same thing, they also do spot inspections. So they will come in unannounced, and if they come through and see something, that has to be fixed immediately. So the state fire marshal, wonderful people that we work with, but they take their jobs very seriously.
So they were talking, it makes sense to me. I added a 9th condition that phantom fireworks shall submit to the village upon request annual license provided by the state fire marshal, ensuring the business is compliant with all applicable state codes. So we have, we can drop by and ask them, send an email, and they'll send it over to us.
Okay.
And I should say, license generally is displayed at the store anyway, so that's fine.
Right.
Just like the food license.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my other concern is there any way you guys, so when you mentioned that store in Florida, your statement was that it was a grandfathered store that didn't have a fire suppression system. And so you said, it was grandfathered in, that's why it happened. Have you committed since that point to update outdated codes that are grandfathered in so this doesn't happen? Or are you just gonna say, oh, it's grandfathered in, don't worry about it?
So in Ohio, since Ohio has been allowed for lawful sale of consumer grade fireworks, generally all the stores that we have opened, can you explain, we basically bring it up to code.
As you know, the code gets updated many times through the years. In fact, we just went through in 2024 a new updated code. Basically, all the stores that we do here in Ohio is brought up to a new code, as if you were building it from scratch. So all the systems are essentially up to the new code. There is no grandfathering in anything for our Ohio stores. Now, in the case of Florida and so forth, I can't speak of what was done and what was allowed in their code back 27 years ago, of when that building was, constructed or modified.
Can we pretend the year's 2046 and there's new code that's applied? Will the code be updated while the fire code is updated, or will it remain the same as it is in 2024?
No one has that magic 8 ball. I'd love to say it for it, but to answer your question, the code does not address that regardless of any situation. Whether it is all the hazardous materials in your Home Depot with their paints and aerosols and so forth, or any of the other stores around with it, the code doesn't address of what it may change or alter in the future.
I think this question is, if in 2046 the code updates such that what you have now doesn't meet that code, does Phantom have a plan to update to meet the new code? Yeah. I suppose I think that's the question.
You do it annually, correct?
Is that
You have to do it every single year?
Just as it's a tough question to answer because we're about 27 years in the future, but, we regularly have a CapEx budget where annually we go through and make improvements, both safety and whatnot, to the entire fleet of showrooms. So, the answer generally is we take a look at those things every year.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else?
Just make sure that the traffic mitigation reflects not just your store, but the adjacent streets as well. Because my concern is that you will address your own traffic, but not how it impacts a dead-end street.
I think that's part of our responsibility too, right? To share that with them in the meeting. Is how that traffic is affected, observationally speaking,
Is there
in
a way
addition
to
to their sales data.
just add that in there, just to make sure that?
Well, we have, unless I'm missing what you're saying, let me know if I am.
No.
We just have the amount duration of time for traffic management officers based upon transaction and traffic data. To
Is that
me,
too broad?
No, to me that's helpfully broad in that we can say if we get 45, just as that they have to show us transaction data, if we can say, well, there were 55 calls about cars turning around in driveways on Jordan, that's a problem for us. I think that's something that we bring up in that, and I think that's included in that condition.
Okay.
Do you have extra sales throughout the year?
Okay, no.
This isn't back and forth.
We need to know. It's going to impact traffic.
You can't.
We're in the middle of this.
Denise, come on.
So, before you, I just want the table set for a motion, and then I'll be quiet. There's 3 actions you can do. You can approve the conditional use permit, you can approve it with modification, or you can disapprove it. P&Z recommended disapproval under their 5 criteria. We have the criteria outlined in 1232.02E. These conditions, I believe 9 we have here that we just sort of all discussed, that would be the motion. If you were to move to approve it with modifications, it would be the 9 conditions typed up here, and that's really all I have. If you guys want to take one more final read through all of those, that's certainly.
For the blind people, can you blow my phone?
can you plug that thing in? It's gonna die soon.
I know,
It is
you're
good.
giving me
As
anxiety.
you're giving everyone in this room anxiety.
Yeah, what are you doing?
If you put on text with,
I've read it like 5 times, I just want to make sure everybody else does.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Usually I'm a fast reader, but.
Just for the record, can you just state one more time what number 3 is under the traffic?
Traffic light?
Because I'm not sure you mentioned that tonight.
Oh, okay.
On the traffic impact study? Yeah.
What are the things that have to be done on number 3? It's the first thing up there.
Right.
You're trying to find the traffic impact
I
study.
was just thinking, yeah. myself.
Oh, I see what
So,
you're doing,
one second, I'll read those to you. Okay. The improvements included from this analysis are the following: modify the traffic signal to Cleveland Avenue, TP Drive, provide signal heads for the westbound approach per direction city Columbus traffic management, strike the southbound turn lane with 50-foot storage lane from Cleveland Avenue, TP Drive, closure of existing western side access drive on Jordan Road, modification of eastern side access drive on Jordan Road to inbound only access. So this is the one that's closed up access response, this is the one that's made entry only.
Okay.
Driving continue here, 50 feet, and then there's the addition of the,
So the striping, the 50 feet of
It's on
striping
Teakwood.
is for, it's a turn lane?
for queuing into the site.
Into the site off Teakwood.
And where is it queuing into? The entrance there at Teakwood or in Jordan?
Jennifer, do you want to answer that?
Oh, thank you.
It's the 50-foot southbound left turn lane on
Okay.
Cleveland. Right, I mean, the pavement exists right now, it's just striped out, so they will restripe it so that it is a turn lane.
And is it 50 feet from Teakwood to Jordan?
It's 50 feet from the stop bar
To Jordan?
to further,
Or-
yeah.
It is further than that.
I don't think Jordan is 50 foot away.
Is it
from-
gonna impact the left-hand turn into Jordan? from-
No,
Okay.
no.
And then it's adding a traffic signal at the exit there.
Right,
Correct,
yep.
adding the
And then
signal heads to that.
Are they, is the, I don't know what I'm trying to say because I don't know stoplight terms, but is,
Start right here,
okay,
and then 50 feet up.
okay. And then are there trip plates put in or anything to help get people out? Because there's not a lot of
Synchronized.
queue space to get traffic out of the parking lot there.
Yeah, the city of Columbus has a lot of signal standards, and they'll definitely make sure that, that signal is actuated.
Okay.
And it'll be connected to the one in Northland Plaza that they're not. I'm assuming that they'll
They
look
have
at
to be
that. They have to be synchronized. I know we're getting way too far in this.
Yeah, we don't have any say in that.
Oh, I
It
will.
would be nice.
That's where I'll get involved.
So I was just going to say that here, so essentially what's happening there is that you've got a 3 traffic signals.
Mhm.
There's not currently a traffic signal at Teakwood. And
There
essentially
is.
the city.
No.
There's not one for,
There's a
there's
stop
not one for
sign
this
here.
traffic here. This
Right.
traffic right now is currently.
Is a stop
There's a
sign,
traffic
right.
here, but there's nothing over here.
It's the
So
opposite.
what Columbus requested is that we
Yes.
just add the traffic
Right.
signals on Teakwood.
That's why there's the.
For the traffic
The
exit.
traffic on Teakwood currently has a signal. The
Correct.
traffic coming out of the
Right.
site does not have a signal right now.
westbound traffic.
Correct, the westbound traffic. This traffic right now has no signals.
Now, well,
And the city is going to, the city of Columbus is requiring that to be signalized.
Hold on.
Can I just ask for one clarification? So it says traffic data. We're not going to, we wouldn't necessarily have traffic counts, because you have to have somebody to stand there and record and count.
Yeah,
We're going to use transactional data.
No, we also are working with, we're going to have traffic, we're going to
You'd have your own day.
Right, so if there's traffic data, we're gonna have it from observational status, we're gonna have police reports, there'll be different ways of handling that.
Yeah.
And then we'll bring it to the table.
Can you put in like Fred, not a traffic study, or?
Yeah, sure, I mean, that's, yeah, I agree, I don't think that's the intent of it,
Okay.
yeah.
We just didn't want to have to hire MS itself to do a whole new traffic study.
No, I think that's gonna
I
be
think
people
they're
like
lovely.
me and her and everybody that can't get out at the end of our street, or if there's adjustments that need to be made, or,
Yeah,
I mean, I should say a lot of these
do
people.
that if necessary, but I didn't want to.
If I have a 30-minute emergency and I can't get to the hospital in 30 minutes, I will be calling you. Or I just won't keep calling.
That's a question.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good.
Here's my only thing. Is there traffic data? Here's my concern still. Okay, ready guys? I live on Parkland. My concern is that during July 3rd or whatnot, I am not able to, because the traffic is backed up, I am not able to turn into my street, or the traffic is so backed up waiting at that light that I can't exit. And I don't think there's any data to discuss that or any way to quantify that.
That's why we have a traffic direction officer under the conditions here that can issue out the order, and that was discussed at P&Z.
So what if the traffic officer just physically can't move at the cars? Like, okay, there's nowhere to go.
He makes it happen. You've seen officers work traffic, right? I mean, the officers can do it.
Yeah, so somebody needs to get out of Jordan,
All right.
there to let them out.
I would note, once again, I think this is as good as we're gonna get without this situation occurring. It's a fair, I think it's an entirely fair concern. I just think that after a first year, we'll see what happens.
Right, if there's an accident at Cleveland and 161, there's an accident at Teakwood, there's an accident here, all not related to you guys, I could see how that would be an issue.
Sure.
At some point, you can't, I agree, you can't what if to death. But we can come back to you guys if it is absolutely horrific and say, okay, this isn't working, what can we do? Because the 3rd is just a mess and you can't get out. And of course, I know a lot of people have the same concern. Yasmin's traffic on the 3rd is probably gonna be just as bad, if not, actually, there were 17 cars parked in your guys' lot the last time they were busy, which was just recently. So they don't have enough, and I'm saying this, not that it's your problem, but they do not have enough parking, they do, their traffic backs us up to where and I think part of this, with a lot of people saying this, we already have an issue. So I think the concern is you're adding to the issue. I understand that that's not your business's fault, but it is a problem. I mean, we know that Yasmin is a problem. And I don't mean it their business sense, but
Their lack of parking.
they don't have enough parking, they're using your lot, that's gonna be between the two of you, but we can't get out of our street. Shutting this exit is gonna be phenomenal because people can't dart across. Like, there are a couple things that's really good, but we already have an issue with Yasmin. And I think part of everybody's issue is, we're looking at this going, it's already an issue on the 3rd. Now what's gonna happen? So I think we're really trying to prepare you for, again, how bad it really is. You know, I know you guys aren't really from around here, but come here on a Saturday afternoon and see how bad it is and how many people are parked in your guys' parking lot. Because I think you will be surprised. So it's just figuring that part out. I do think that that's gonna be interesting.
All right. No one has anything else, does it? Who's got a motion to that?
I think,
Well, on the basis of my role in legislation, it is time for the council to decide. And on that basis, I make a motion for passage for conditional use with the modifications here described.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
And seconded, will there be any?
Does anybody have any more discussions before we do roll call?
I have
Speak
something
now,
brief.
forever hold your peace. And we can go down through here, go ahead.
Just briefly, I wish, there was a way that we could all, go back and make this progress, or this process so much more smooth. But here's where we are, and it is my sincere hope that things work well and that you guys at Phantom will be, responsive and receptive and the good neighbors that you claim you aspire to be.
We'll hold you to that standard.
I think they're getting it.
I'm high maintenance.
As David just talked, I'm assuming most council people are gonna wanna say something before or after they vote, so just bear with them for a minute. All right, do you wanna just do it each person? Because David was actually first on roll call. Do you want him to do it and then I'll go to the next one, or do you want them all to?
No, you should have everybody discuss and then vote. We're at that discussion point now.
JT, do you have something you wanna say before you're not voting yet, but do you have something you wanna say?
I want people to know this isn't just a simple yes or no answer. You might think it is, but it's not. Let me explain to you what happens if I say no. Jesse, what happens if I say no?
Jesse.
Let me explain. Jesse, what happens?
I hesitate to
They have a
torture a
right.
legal argument on the record, but
Yeah.
I think you have gone a long way towards as good as you're going to get in this scenario, would be my statement on it. I think there's a real possibility, very real, that you could end up with, we could spend $100,000 in legal fees to my firm's benefit and end up with a phantom fireworks without any conditions. And that's my opinion, which is why I've worked to get some conditions imposed. And it's not just my opinion, I've run it by 11 different planning and zoning lawyers in my office. We're the premier local government firm in Central Ohio, probably the state. And to a man and woman, it was that the zoning looks pretty good for phantom fireworks. You should try to get some conditions that help out the residents' concerns.
With that said, I really want to say no, but I don't have the village's interest at heart. I don't.
You don't have whose?
The village's interest at heart if I said no.
Okay. I'm gonna do, only because I started there, I don't wanna go backwards, so. Council President Camera, do you have anything you wanna say?
I'll wait on my,
You're fine.
till my vote.
Okay. Tommy?
No, I think, I'm on P&Z and I've listened to everything, and I think that I want everybody to know that on P&Z we have a completely different set of criteria to vote on when we're making our recommendation to council on how to vote compared to the set of criteria that we have on council specifically for a straight up denial. And I think when you read through these three terms, it makes it very difficult, if not impossible, to vote no, given the applicant's presentation and what they brought to the table.
Can you read those to us?
Yes, so I don't have the, I might have the, yeah, 1230 202.
Justin's
I
got it.
have it, want me to.
Okay, yeah.
Council shall only disapprove of an application for conditional use for any one of the following. A, the proposed use is not a conditional use of the zoning district where the applicable development standards are not and cannot be met. B, the proposed development is not in accord with appropriate plans of the area. Or C, the proposed development will have undesirable effects on the surrounding area and is not in keeping with the existing land use character and physical development potential of the area.
And so thank you, Jesse. When I look at those conditions, the only one I truly have an objection to is will have undesirable effects, because I know that there's going to be some traffic challenges, but they are willing to, work with us to make sure that that's less of a problem. In that portion C, there's ands, and is not in keeping with the land use character. I think what they've presented, and I agree with, it's a retail store. It's not a fireworks launching site. And I think that what they have, from my perspective, is a lot of due diligence, Ohio Fire Code, a lot of safety things that they're putting into place to the best of their ability to make sure that it's not a problem. I don't think that Phantom wants stores to go up in flames. It's bad for business. And I don't think they also want traffic issues either. I think they want to make sure that they're mitigated, because if you, in any business, you want people in, you want people out, you want transactions. Every time I go to Texas Roadhouse, I always think about how they treat people like, you're like the cattle in Texas Roadhouse. You're in and you're out. You never find a warm or a cold seat in that place. And they would love for that. And I think this actually helps them improve their business by having a better traffic flow. But sorry, that's just what I have to say.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilperson Hall.
Oh, geez. I want to thank everybody for putting in all of the effort that we put into coming to this point. I want to at least address all of you guys. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for addressing your concerns. Please don't feel that I didn't listen, and I'm sorry for not being there. Please don't think that I didn't listen to the planning and zoning meeting multiple times. Please don't think that I didn't consider every point that was made. Please don't think that your voice went unheard. And please don't think that any of these decisions were made on the fly and that we didn't lose sleep over it, we didn't talk it through, we didn't talk about it with our neighbors, or, we didn't consider every angle of being between a rock and a hard place. So you guys have to give us some grace too, because we are also people, and you've elected us to make these really hard decisions. So thank you for that honor, and please know that we did pour our hearts into this. That being said, this is hard. This is very hard. That's all I got.
Councilperson Passion.
And I'll just say thank you all so much for being here and addressing everyone's concerns. We know that you heard us, whether people sitting here right now feel that they've been heard. I thank you especially for sharing your process with us, because you clearly looked at our code before you ever bought that building. And that, based on what Jesse said about his peers,
Yeah.
I know my answer.
Oh yeah, thanks, Jesse.
Yeah, nothing here has been taken lightly. I really believe I can speak for everyone in saying that.
So I will just say that we've been in this process now for over a year. Sleepless nights, I think, is definitely something most of us can say, especially over the last 2 weeks. As you guys are fully aware, I'm the one that ultimately believed that this is where we were going to end up. I don't know what everybody's going to answer, but my answer last week was pretty simple. I knew our code, I knew what we were facing, and I knew where we were headed. So as difficult as it was for me to say what I said last week, and trust me, I saw all the nice little Facebook comments and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, the real answer is we have to follow the law. As much as we want, I personally want to listen to every single person and do exactly what everybody says. It's not like they've alluded to, it's not that easy. It's my job sitting here has been pretty simple. I live 350 feet from you, so you guys will see me walk around your building 100 times a week, because I do. But again, I live 350 feet, so I'm also a realtor. I hear the insurance things, I hear all of those things that everybody has a concern, and I do believe living closer to this property probably affects us more than the people on down further and all of that. Am I right? I don't know. But at the end of the day, you guys have been, you guys are the ones that reached out to us multiple times. You guys have not hid from anything. So I do feel like you guys will be a good partner, and we will be able to work with you guys on follow-up concerns and things like that. So again, I thank you guys. I thank all of you guys. Again, this is not easy for any one person sitting up here. No matter if they say yes or no, they know what the consequences are if they say yes. They know what the consequences are if they say no. So that's just where it is. So at the end of the day, this is where we are, and I'm gonna do roll call.
Wait, I need to understand how we're answering, because I think we have 3 choices of an answer.
Correct.
Not yes or no.
So the motion on the table was to approve with the conditions as listed. And so a yes
That's
vote.
what I moved.
That's what he moved. It's not it. So if I said it wrong,
Okay.
it's not. And I think that's where people kind of got off on my answer on the other day, because I didn't agree with no. We spent an hour talking about conditions, and then they all moved to go a different direction. So people just thought I wanted to approve without conditions.
So
I don't know.
a yes vote here approves with these conditions. A no vote does not.
Got it.
Okay, wait.
Thank you.
A
I have
yes?
one last thing, sorry.
Can we do that
Is it
with
too late?
a motion on, or do we have to redo the
Is this a
motion?
discussion or?
No, I wanted to add one more word.
What,
I'm
you want to
sorry.
amend the motion?
I do want to amend the motion.
Well, I'm sorry, what do you want to, since we're in discussion, what do you want to make it?
Yeah,
Okay,
it could
calm
be-
down. Village administration, can it also be a council person? I think we've discussed that.
I think,
That's
well,
not just-
I don't think it needs to. You can just come.
Okay.
You're welcome to, you guys can
Alright,
sit in wherever
just
you
make
want.
sure that's
Yeah.
on the record,
As long as we don't hit it.
because I'm coming,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in high heels, just kidding. Okay,
So we don't
On the
need to change
record.
anything?
No.
Okay,
On
so
the record.
the motion on the floor is to approve with conditions
Right.
as listed.
Right.
Yep.
Councilperson McNamara,
Aye.
Councilperson Passion.
Aye.
Councilperson Martin. Council President Cameron.
This is where I'm going to speak.
Go for it.
All right, so I wrote down a few notes here. So I want to start by thanking everyone for their comments, emails, conversations, counsel, and interest in this matter. I take this responsibility seriously and have spent hours researching and reflecting on how to proceed that will have the least impact on the well-being of this community. If you had asked me a few years ago if I thought we'd be having this conversation about selling fireworks in the neighborhood, I would have been very skeptical. We don't have many large retail or commercial business space within this village. Most business spaces are on the smaller side, and there are very few vacancies. When fireworks were first mentioned in a council meeting or work session, it was focused on lighting of the fireworks. I don't recall any conversation about selling of fireworks, and if we did, I would have thought about sparklers and small novelty items in the retail space that we have here. I do remember sitting in that council meeting in Minerva France Elementary School when there was a discussion about a guest speaker and where they would go on the agenda that night. I sat there listening to the presentation, trying to understand what was happening. There were some questions, as I recall, and the meeting ended. Several months following the meeting, we had several visitors to our meetings themselves from representatives from Phantom and their legal counsel. Council was working through the code rewrite, and we discussed what, if anything, we could do to keep them from moving into the neighborhood. The village received the application from Phantom prior to the code change, and the moratorium went into effect while the code rewrite was finalized. The process began in bringing the application to planning and zoning, and that concluded almost 2 weeks ago, and we are now here at this place. I want to say that I appreciate our law director and the firm that he represents. Frost, Brown & Todd have over 575 attorneys in 17 offices in 9 states and Washington, D.C., and I respect their counsel on this matter. The Phantom Fireworks, who found a community near the heart of a major city where you can set up shop. Your customers should be those people who can legally use your product, but you'll be operating in an area that consists of about 750 homes that can currently light up fireworks. Not nearly the consumer market that can keep your doors open. Everywhere else for several miles has outlawed the use of fireworks, but you know that, and you know that they'll still buy your product despite it not being legal for them to light them off. The markup on your product must be pretty damn good to operate for 11 months of the year with so few sales. In the end, I know that the courts will side with the retailer in these situations, and the village has little to no chance of winning this should it be voted down. Voting no would allow you to operate with no guardrails and accountability for the safety and well-being of this community. So tonight, I will vote yes for the conditions for with this application.
Well said.
All right. Councilperson Cost.
I will say this, to echo what Jason is saying, because we have 4 votes yes, I have the luxury to say no. And I'm saying it because I want to represent my family, my children, my neighbors, Jordan Road and Park Lane. And I'm going to say no for the record.
You want to say it again? Okay, so this is passed. Does anybody else up here have anything they want to say? Well, I want to say thank you to council that did vote for it. I live 350 feet from it, so I won these conditions, so I appreciate you guys.
I have a question. Do we know when they might open?
I was going to ask them that next. Do you have any idea, once you guys get the permit, how long, like, are we expecting you guys to be open by New Year's Eve? Thank you.
Nobody else did the day. We'll rush it for New Year's Eve, sometime in the spring,
Like in spring?
maybe winter.
Okay.
Late winter.
So I believe you need a motion to adjourn at this point.
Does it, well, no, okay, so
Oh, yeah, it's old and new.
do we have any old business? Any new business? I actually did. September 5th is work session, and that is at 7. So don't forget, we've adjusted these so many times. 7 o'clock.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed?